She was trembling in fear, almost dangerous, lost in the desert, believing no one could save her. But a lonely rancher did the unthinkable, showed kindness when she expected cruelty. Watch this unbelievable story of courage, survival, and unexpected trust. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe now, hit the like button, and join us to see how her life changed forever. She trembled in fear as she stood at the edge of the ranch, the vast American desert stretching endlessly behind her. The moonlight revealed dust on her face, dried blood on her feet, and terror in her eyes. She was Apache, raised on stories of betrayal, forced labor, and broken promises. Every step she took toward this land felt like a mistake, yet going back meant certain death. When the sound of hooves approached, her body stiffened. She whispered a prayer in her native tongue, certain that this rancher would be no different from the others, who had taken everything from her people. The rancher slowed his horse long before reaching her. He had seen fear before, real fear, not the kind born from guilt, but the kind carved by survival. He noticed how she clutched her shawl, how her eyes searched for escape routes. Years of isolation had made him observant, quiet. He dismounted slowly, keeping distance, and spoke in a calm, low voice. She didn't understand his words, but she understood restraint. He did not touch her. He did not command her. Instead, he waited, as if allowing her to decide whether this moment would end in flight or trust. Her hands shook violently as he placed a canteen on the ground and stepped back. Water meant life, yet she hesitated. Every lesson she had learned warned her that nothing was free. As she finally knelt and drank, memories flooded her mind. Her village burned, her mother dragged away, her own body treated like property. She braced herself for the moment his kindness would turn cruel. But when she looked up, he was facing away, staring into the dark plains, giving her dignity she had not felt in years. The ranch was silent except for the wind and distant coyotes. He motioned toward a small barn, explaining slowly, gently, that she could rest there. She followed at a distance, every nerve alert. Inside, the barn was warm, clean, and safe. A blanket lay folded on a wooden bench. No locks, no guards. Her confusion grew heavier than her fear. Men who helped always demanded something later: labor, obedience, silence. She sat rigid, waiting. The rancher lit a lantern and placed it near her, then stepped back again, as if afraid to scare her away. That night she did not sleep. Every creak of wood made her flinch. She watched the door, ready to run. But nothing happened. Hours passed. Dawn light crept through the cracks, and for the first time in years, she was still alive at sunrise. Outside, she heard the rancher working, feeding horses, fixing a fence, living his life as if she were not a burden or a threat. That simple normalcy unsettled her more than violence ever had. Over the next days, he brought food and left it without watching her eat. He spoke little, never raising his voice. She learned his name slowly, from the way he introduced himself without expectation. When she spoke, he listened, even when he didn't understand the words. Trust did not arrive suddenly. It crept in quietly, like light filling a dark room. She noticed his loneliness, the way he returned each evening to an empty house. Two broken lives, circling each other carefully, afraid to hope. One afternoon, distant riders appeared on the horizon. Her blood turned cold. She recognized the danger immediately. Men searching, claiming ownership over what they believed was stolen property. Panic seized her body. She backed toward the trees, ready to disappear. But before she could flee, the rancher stepped forward. He placed himself between her and the riders, his posture firm, unyielding. For the first time, she saw anger in his eyes, not toward her, but toward injustice. The confrontation was brief but tense. The rancher spoke with authority, invoking law, land rights, and consequence. His voice carried certainty, the kind earned by someone who had nothing left to lose. The riders hesitated, measured him, then turned away. When the dust settled, her legs gave out. She had been defended, not bought, not hidden, but defended. Tears streamed down her face as she realized this man had risked everything for her safety without asking for anything in return. That moment changed her. She began helping around the ranch, not because she was forced, but because she wanted to belong somewhere again. She repaired clothing, tended animals, learned English slowly. He never treated her as less, never reminded her of her past. Instead, he spoke of the future, of seasons, of rebuilding, of staying if she wished. Each word planted something fragile but powerful inside her: choice. At night, they spoke by the fire. She told him her story piece by piece, each memory heavy with pain. He listened without interrupting, without pity. When her voice broke, he waited. She had expected judgment or shame, but found respect instead. For the first time, she felt seen, not as an Apache woman, not as a survivor, but as a human being. The fear that once controlled her slowly loosened its grip. Weeks turned into months. The ranch felt different now, alive, shared. She laughed once, unexpectedly, and froze, shocked by the sound of her own joy. He smiled softly, saying nothing. Healing did not erase the past, but it made space around it. She was no longer trembling in fear. She was standing, choosing, becoming more than what had been done to her. She had come to the ranch expecting cruelty. She had prepared herself for pain. What she found instead was something far more dangerous: kindness. And it changed her life forever. The past never left her easily. Even as days grew calmer, nightmares returned each night, dragging her back too. Screams, fire, and chains. She would wake up gasping, her body soaked in sweat, her heart racing as if she was still running. The rancher noticed without asking questions. He placed an extra lantern outside her room and sat quietly nearby until her breathing slowed. He never touched her without permission. That patience spoke louder than promises. Slowly, she realized healing was not about forgetting. It was about surviving the memories without letting them destroy her. Rumors began spreading in nearby towns. A white rancher sheltering an Apache woman invited trouble in those times. Some neighbors warned him, others mocked him. They said she would bring danger, that the past would follow her like a curse. He listened and said nothing. When asked why he risked his land and reputation, he answered simply that no one deserved to be hunted. She overheard those words from a distance, and something inside her shifted. For the first time, someone had chosen her publicly, without shame. One evening, a government agent arrived, papers in hand, demanding explanations. The woman froze, her body reacting before her mind could. Authority had never meant protection to her. She prepared to flee again. But the rancher stood firm, presenting documents, land records, and legal claims. He stated clearly that she was free, not property, not a fugitive. The argument stretched long into the night. When the agent finally left, frustrated and empty-handed, she collapsed to her knees. Freedom, she realized, was not just escaping. It was being defended by the truth. After that night, she began to speak more openly. She told him about her daughter, taken years ago, her fate unknown. The pain in her voice was raw, unfinished. The rancher listened, then quietly promised to help search. It was not an empty comfort. He wrote letters, traveled to settlements, asked questions others were afraid to ask. Weeks passed without answers. Still he didn't stop. Even without results, his effort mattered. For the first time since her loss, hope returned, not as a fantasy, but as a fragile living thing. One afternoon, a reply arrived. The letter was short, uncertain, but enough. A young Apache girl had been seen working in a household 2 states away. The woman's hands trembled as she read it. Fear and hope clashed violently inside her. What if it wasn't her daughter? What if it was too late? The rancher did not hesitate. He prepared horses and supplies, insisting they would go together. She protested this was her burden, but he refused to let her face it alone. Some journeys, he said, should never be walked in fear again. The road was long and unforgiving. Memories resurfaced with every mile, but so did strength. When they finally arrived, the truth stood before them. A frightened young girl, older than memory, yet unmistakably hers. Recognition passed between them without words. The reunion was quiet, broken, real. Tears flowed freely, carrying years of grief away. The rancher stepped back, allowing the moment to belong to them. Watching from a distance, he understood that his role was not to claim happiness, but to protect it. Bringing the girl back to the ranch changed everything. Laughter returned, cautious but genuine. The woman became softer, stronger, more certain. She began teaching her daughter traditions she feared were lost forever. The rancher watched them from the porch, a quiet presence in their world. One night, the woman approached him, her voice steady yet emotional. She told him she no longer lived in fear. She lived by choice. Whatever the future held, she wanted him to be part of it, not as a savior, but as a man she trusted. He did not answer immediately. He had lived too long alone to believe in second chances easily. But as he looked at her standing tall, no longer trembling, he understood that healing had changed them both. He nodded, not with possession, but with respect. Their bond was not born from debt or survival. It was built from patience, courage, and shared silence. Love, when it finally arrived, felt earned. Time passed. The ranch grew stronger, fuller. Neighbors who once doubted began to see differently. The Apache woman was no longer a shadow hiding on the land. She was a presence, respected, capable, unbroken. She spoke for others who could not, offering shelter to the lost, just as she once received. Pain had shaped her, but it did not define her. Strength did. One evening, as the sun dipped below the plains, she stood beside the rancher, watching her daughter laugh freely. She remembered the night she arrived, trembling, certain of betrayal. She had expected cruelty from him. What she received instead was something rare, dignity. That single act had changed the course of her life. Fear had brought her to the ranch. Courage kept her there. And kindness, unexpected, quiet kindness, gave her a future she never believed was possible. The story did not end with rescue. It ended with choice. And that made all the difference. The Apache woman watched her daughter play under the wide golden sky. Sunlight glinting off her dark hair. Each laugh reminded her of what she had lost and what she had finally regained. The rancher stood a few steps away, quietly observing, his hands resting on the fence. He didn't need words. The silence itself spoke volumes. She realized that this safety, this peace, was something she had never imagined possible in her lifetime. Days turned into weeks, and the ranch transformed. The Apache woman helped with chores, tending the animals with skill she had learned in her childhood. Her daughter followed her, eager to learn. She shared stories of their ancestors, teaching the young girl about bravery, resilience, and the importance of choice. The rancher occasionally joined in, offering guidance but never overstepping. Slowly, the ranch became a home, not just a shelter. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, she approached the rancher. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling but steady. "You didn't just save me, you gave me my life back." He smiled softly, placing a hand on the fence. "You saved yourself," he replied. "I just helped along the way." In that moment, the trust, respect, and bond between them solidified. Fear no longer ruled her heart. Hope and love had taken its place. The past still haunted her occasionally, shadows that threatened to creep back into her mind. But now she faced them with strength. She knew she wasn't alone. The rancher, her daughter, and even the land itself had become her anchor. Together, they had rebuilt a life from fragments of fear, grief, and loss. She finally understood that survival was not enough. True life came from courage, love, and the freedom to choose. And as the stars appeared above the quiet plains, she stood tall, no longer trembling. The Apache woman, once lost and hunted, was now free, whole, and living on her own terms. The Apache woman stood at the edge of the ranch as the daughter swept across the plains, carefree for the first time in years. She watched the sun dip low, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. Memories of fear and loss lingered, but they no longer ruled her heart. The rancher approached silently, handing her a small cup of tea. They shared a quiet moment, the kind that didn't need words, trust, respect, and unspoken gratitude filling the space between them. Life on the ranch had become routine yet full of meaning. She taught her daughter the ways of their ancestors, while the ranch attended to the animals and land, each supporting the other without demanding more than what was freely given. The Apache woman smiled as she realized that safety, love, and family were no longer dreams. They were her reality. That night, under the blanket of stars, she felt a peace she had never known. The past could not reach her here. She had survived, she had chosen, and she had found home. The Apache woman, once trembling in fear, now stood strong, free and ready to face the world with courage and hope.